Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 484. Today is Saturday, April 5th, 2025, and I'm glad you could join me today. It's a beautiful day, but I haven't been outside yet. We're trying out having both kids napping at the same time. We'll see how that goes. But whatever, my spouse is on standby to deal, deal with any issues. So it's been a little while since the last episode. But I don't know, or maybe I'm like not too far off on schedule thinking about it. That's probably not too bad because the last episode was the 21st, so we should be okay. Apparently I'm still getting 50 bajillion texts. Yeah, whatever. Right now, my dinner group is weighing in on whether we're pro or anti-ironing. I will say that the chief ironer of the household is my spouse. So, whatever. Thank you, dear sweet lovable one, for your service. But not too crazy here. I have returned to work. I'm going to be part-time for the month of April. And then I'll be going back full-time in May-ish. I don't know, whatever. It's probably like 4 weeks, but it's close enough, whatever. We'll see how it goes. And then would it be? And then I'm probably like still like a little bit jet lagged from the trip to Europe. Would it be? So I ended up going to London for about a week, which is like what would it be? That was sort of, or would it be? So that ended up being like a Wednesday to Wednesday trip. Had a lot of fun. Got to see a lot of things. Got to eat lots of food I didn't have to cook. Did have to keep the baby alive, but it's much easier when you don't have to keep the toddler alive at the same time. So we're just we sent Grandpa home yesterday, or dropped him off at the airport. I think he made it back. So this room is mine again, but in some ways it's not because this is where this is where we've been having Kathleen sleep and nap lately. And we'll just have to, I guess we'll have to figure out how that's all gonna go down. I would like this room to myself again sometime soon. Yeah, and I guess it's probably gonna be a while before more house guests come, so that's probably fine. And it looks like I left this off in the middle of the row, so I will finish that up. Yeah. So I still have the same two projects. I was correct in that what I brought with me on my trip was plenty of knitting. So what I'm working on right now is a shawl that will be an accessory to go with the fireworks hat that I made. And what I ended up doing was I took the chart from the peacock shawl and mapped it onto a 22.5-degree shawl. Maybe, I don't know, if it's a little bit more shallow, that's a distinct possibility. And then also mapped it into double brioche as well. Which basically boiled down to, like if you're doing 2-color single brioche, You would have like 4 restros before you do any increases or decreases. And with double brioche, I am having 8 restros before any increases or decreases. And that seems to be pretty good. Could it have been 6 and still looked pretty good? Probably. Will I have to see after I block what's gonna go down? Probably. Have I had the desire to rip it all out and start over again happen recently? Probably not. Did I tell you guys about that? So it was the case where I did end up making a um, choice to change the design, so that I would have like a center spine where increases were coming out of. All right, and now we're done with the row. And this next row will be a pattern row. So this is what the Ann Carlton polar side looks like. So a little bit of flashing here or there, but mostly just sort of stripey. And then this is what the Varex and Veruct side looks like. So I suppose it probably is in a similar boat, but to me at least it doesn't look quite as flashy and pooly, but obviously when I have it up like this, I can see places which are more magenta and more gray. And it feels like I still have, yeah, I still have plenty of yarn. Also, this bag is full of the stuff that I wanted to have on the airplane. I definitely did mess this up a little bit on the plane flight back, but it's not the end of the world. So what we have here is that I am just getting ready to do the next sort of section of the pattern. So there's like a section of the pattern where you have like the quill of the feather. Then you have the expansion of the feather. Then you have a section where you've reached full feather width, and you sort of close off ends, and then you have the little top, which has sort of like the more circular pattern to it. And so if you look at this, or would it be sort of like as its like natural thing, um, like we could definitely see, I finished off like the closing off section basically. And then you can see, try to move my hands to the right spot, but my hands are not doing. um, so it is the case where sort of that closing off area maybe doesn't look quite as square. And so that's why I was mentioning that maybe 6 restros would have been enough. But it's also interesting because, like, that, what would it be? I think I was just assuming that, would it be? It'd be the case where you'd be able to maybe see like a little bit more clearly that I would have a section of feather running along one edge, a different section of feather running along the other. Um, and how it like feels right now is actually that like, well, there's sort of like, it's sort of like fitting the shape of the shawl more. So it'd be the case, it'd be, I don't know, or I think that would be maybe the best way to describe it is that the center line is sort of undulating depending on what part of the shawl we're talking about. And then it would be the case where I don't know that I would even like write up a pattern for this because what would it be? I probably have a backlog of brioche designs that I've I've done for personal knitting purposes. Um, but we definitely would be so yeah. And then because I have like the I-cord edge, it definitely is um fairly taut on this end, but that probably helps with structure anyway. So I don't, or would it be, this isn't nearly long enough yet. But hopefully in the way that I am knitting it up, um, that shouldn't be too big a deal. I'm not huge, I'm not greatly increasing the stitch count here. So there could be an argument that if I didn't want it to be maybe quite as undulating, then I would have had like half repeats places. And I think I was doing a little bit of that with the first iteration of the shawl. But I'm not too worried about it. Should be good. Um so this has been a pretty fun project so far. Definitely have quite a bit more to go on it. But it's still double brioches, still basically as comforting to me as the single brioches. It's just the increases and decreases. I take some amount of cable needle, so I have a cable needle in my bag. I have an extra US one in my bag. And then I have this little stitch marker here to remind me what is the center spine. And then this has all been living in my fast roll bag. Have I woven in the end of the hat? No. Do I have my knitting stuff in there to do it? Yes. Um, so the other thing, and this ended up getting a decent amount of love on the trip, because it was fairly straightforward knitting as long as I accepted the fact that I needed a ton of markers. um, so this is my Holden shawl. So I'm knitting this out of my Nest Fiber Company Maiden's Wish, which is a 70% BFL 30% silk blend that I spun into a 6-ply fingering weight. And so we can see the undulation of the pattern. We can see sort of the stripiness of the hand spun in the stockinette field, and then a lot of distraction with the stitch markers. Um, so I think now one, two, yeah. So now this would be the case where if I was knitting it to pattern, I would have bound off by now. But I am intending to do more repeats of the pattern because I still have quite a bit of yarn left. So I probably still have about 4 ounces left. I'm not sure where my scale is right now. It can't be quite as accessible lately because my child finds it to be an interesting toy. So I definitely have several more color repeats to go on this. I'm pulling from the outside of the ball to help try to keep it a little bit more tidy. And then in this bag, I have a smaller needle to help pick up stitches, and then I have a whole bunch of stitch markers because every time I sort of get like a new repeat in, then I want to be able to get stitch markers in so it's a little bit easier to keep track of where I am. So this has been a good project. So would it be? But also frustrating sometimes because it would be the case where it wouldn't be until I was like preparing to do the eyelet row where I would then find out that my count was off. So that was a little bit crazy making. Should this have been the project that I was working on in the airplane on the way back home? Maybe. Maybe. But I ended up doing the brioche one instead, and then it was a little bit hilarious when I know something was wrong and be like, okay, how do I get enough light to fix this? Um, yeah, because it was definitely like both legs of the flight we were on like 777 were both going there and returning home. And when you're in the center of the airplane at the bulkhead, it gets sort of tricky. um, the light is very far away from you. I think that would be the best way to describe that. So I'm knitting this one on US 6 needles. Could have been a little bit tighter, maybe. Will it be fine? Yeah. Um, like I think I had tried it on fours and was like, oh, maybe that was what the 2.5s are in the bag. um, so I'm just going to keep slowly increasing away or whatever. So, and we'll see how far I can get on this project. I think a lot of it just depends on what I'm in the mood for and what's going on. Would it be how busy I'm gonna be sort of in the coming weeks. Um, but so far so good. I just, or would it be? It was the case where I sort of needed to accept that I I was going to need reminders of where I was in the pattern because I apparently wasn't going to be reading my knitting closely. um, no, and there definitely were like a couple of pretty, or what was it? I think there was one time where I tried, like I wanted to do drop down and fix it, and then very quickly figured out that there was just no way. And then there was a time where like my decreases had been like shifted by a stitch. So one side was way too big and the other side of it was too small. And that one was one where because like the stitch count had been conserved, it had just been shifted. That one it was possible to drop down and get everything right again. But it is like a little bit, or would it be because this is the case where like most rows have decreases and then there's one row that has like a ton of increases on it. So that can make dropping down a little bit annoying because you have to shimmy through all those decreased stitches, but at least it's not cables. um I have not started the Go-Go Dynamo. um I didn't even bring it with me, and I feel quite justified in that because I still have plenty of knitting to do on these. But I probably will end up starting it fairly soon. I think I'm accepting the fact that I'm not gonna participate in any of the SSK Cals because I am, or would it be? Like, I think that's been maybe a little bit of challenge for, yeah, I think that's been true for the past few weeks. It's just, because my time zone has been pretty wonky. I've been going to bed pretty early, which then which then means that I am not getting as much solo time. So there's that. But what was it? It was the case where, so yesterday was like a spring break day, so I was solo with both kids. But they both ended up taking really epic naps, so I got quite a lot of knitting done while they were epically napping. Should I have been doing something else? I don't know. I don't know. So there is that. I did a good job of tiring out the toddler, and so that was the reward. Um, so not too crazy there. Um, let's see. So I think a side effect of not having my own room is that, um, what is it? I haven't been doing very much spinning lately, and I'm not quite sure how to enable that better. Because I don't feel comfortable at this time, um, like having a situation where my toddler can fiddle around with my spinning wheel. So right now it's in my bedroom, but there isn't necessarily a good spot to sit and spin in there right now. Um, like it it fits what it needs to fit, and it cannot fit anymore. Um, so that's been at least a little bit of a bummer. Um, is there a scenario where I could do more spinning if I could get everything set up there? Maybe. I think one of my projects for today is to figure out the long-term home for my baby's clothing. Because it has been on my work desk, but I will need to actually work. And I don't, or would it be? Then we'll ponder whether or not I get more knitting time because of that. We're not sure. So that's or would it be? So I didn't even bother to bring the wheel with me today or relocate what room the wheel was in because haven't had much chance to spin. Um, so that's what it be. So that's sort of where I am at right now. Would it be good to finish that project? Yes. Am I pretty close to finishing it? Sure. Do I need to move my wheel all around in order to make that happen? I guess. I guess. Um, but yeah, I would it be? I hadn't realized how lucky I was to have the situation, for example, like where I could just have my wheels set up exactly where I wanted to use it. Um, yeah, well, also I think the other thing that's been throwing us a bit is well, my father-in-law has been in town. He ended up helping with some of the like home repair stuff that needed to happen, and so that sort of resulted in a tear up of the living room. So furniture is all over the place and chaotic right now. And we'll have to move that back. Get that all sorted out again. So should be fine. Um, and I don't like, I think it's gonna be a while before he'll be back again to help out, so can probably figure something out for the time being. Um, or figure out if there is a better way to sort things and that sort of thing. I suppose I can't complain because I am at least working with Handsman right now. So, um, would it be? So I do have to laugh at myself a little bit because I had said that, would it be like my yarn crawl was over, and then I did end up going out on the or whatever, because I think I want to say like I podcasted one of the days, and then I ended up going out the next day. Probably. Yeah. So it was the case where a friend was having a trunk show at Imagine It. So I ended up going out and hanging out with people there for a while. And then I went to Firebird afterwards. Hopped on the bus. Um, Ended up hanging out there for a while, and I ended up picking up a few things at both. So, at Imagine It, I ended up picking up an item from the trunk show. So this is very gorgeous blue fiber. So this is BFL silk tops. So this is 85 BFL, 15% Tussa from Peninsula Yarn, which was the friend that I went out to support. And then I ended up doing another lucky dip at Firebird, and I ended up winning a pin. So I got a Firebird Yarns pin to go on my bag here. So I have a couple of San Francisco pins on that bag now, which is cool. I also got some celebration soak because it seemed like a handy thing to have. It was the case where I was pondering if I needed to pick up 2 skeins of a neon coordinating color. And then one of my friends had dropped by and we were discussing it, and she had pointed out a color that I already owned. So I didn't even need to buy yarn. But it was the case where I did get to look at the wall of yarn for a while to try to figure out what was going there. And it would be the case where if one wants to buy neon yarn, like that's definitely the store for it. And then while I was in London, I did end up taking what would it be, like an afternoon to visit two shops in London. So it was the case where so based on opening hours, would it be? So it would be the case where it was fairly easy to visit 2 shops because they're actually pretty close to each other. They weren't like super close to the hotel that I was staying at because we were trying to be at least somewhat close to where lots of the touristy things were. And like, what would it be like if you came to San Francisco, it would be the case where, like, if Pier 39 is where all of the touristy stuff is, and there's one thing at Pier 39 that's worth it. Maybe 2. I think I did. There's probably like 2 things there that are actually worth it. And then if you came to San Francisco, and I like the yarn store would be the equivalent of going to visit Love Fest Fibers in San Francisco. So it would be like It's still London, um, but it's definitely much more like of a suburban area. And you could probably take, similarly, you could probably take a bus directly from the touristy zone to that place. So there are a decent number of parallels, but it would be the case where that's effectively where, which makes perfect sense. Like the yarn stores are closer to where the people are. Um, so I ended up going to Knit with Attitude and Wild and Woolly, and so what it be? They definitely have um, their own like distinct personalities for sure. Um, would it be? I would say, um, in comparison to the yarn store, the many yarn stores that I visited in the month of March, um, like these ones definitely are quite a bit smaller, like square footage wise, and that's totally fine. Um, they definitely had like quite a lot of things to select from, and then I was very cognizant that like, hey, I'm in Europe. Um, I would like to pick up some things that are easy to get in Europe and harder to get in the United States. So, right, another row done on that shawl. So, and it was a case where because of the very chatty knitting thread, um, we had been talking about knitting some sweaters together. So, Knit with Attitude, the owner is from Norway, and like her focus for her shop was to have things that were um, ethical, environmentally responsible, natural dye. And so I was able to pick up yarn to do a rocket tee there. And so all of these little skeins here, so these are number 4, naturally dyed by Geold Gold. And I basically, please stand by while I prepare my rainbow. So I ended up picking 5 colors of these, and so the plan for the rocket is to basically have stripes. And so this is 75% Falkland Merino and 25% Gotland. So very nice, very pretty. And then I ended up getting 2 skeins of Soleil. So this is Hillersvåg yarn. So this is 100% Norwegian, and this is Pellisgarn. So it's from a Norwegian sheep, and I ended up getting 2 skeins of navy because that was what I needed in order to hit the yardage for the sweater. And like had there been maybe like a smaller one, that would have been fine, because then like I didn't need whatever, like I needed like a bit more than a skein. But such is life. So all these colors have very good contrast with my navy. Will all look really nice together. So excited about that. And Rocket Tee is a Tanis Lavalley pattern. I don't even know why I'm totally putting this away right now, because I think I need to take pictures of everything in order to stick it in the stash, so it's fine. And then when I was at, and then I ended up taking a lovely walk. It was like a 25-minute walk. I was able to go to Wild and Woolly. And what I decided to get there. So she did have some yarn that was like, specifically or whatever, the BC garn, I believe. Or maybe it was Lexta. I don't know. She definitely had a yarn that was like England for sure. Um, and what would it be? But it was the case where what I ended up deciding to go with was Studio Donegal. So this is Irish, which would it be, at least for me, was close enough because that was the only stop on my Europe trip. um, and so I ended up picking out a navy, a hot pink, and a teal. And then you can see the Tweety flecks in it. So if I was trying to like get my tweeds to connect, like I should have gone like the gold instead of um the hot pink, but I decided that this would be fine. And so the goal for this one is to make a cinnamon top. So the pattern itself, um, so the pattern itself calls for like two colors, but I would have needed to have bought, or similar to the rocket tee, I would have needed to have bought 4 skeins in order to hit the yardage. So I decided to get 3 skeins with 3 colors instead. And that's a Ksenia Nadayan pattern. And so another like summer top. So could we argue that maybe I should whatever. I feel like I might have a long run of knitting knitting t-shirts and lighter sweaters for a while, because I think I find them to be very easy to use and wear. And also I'm gonna have, what it be, like 5 weeks in the heat this summer. um yeah, I'm not quite sure what's gonna happen to the recording schedule in that time, but we'll see what happens. But because it's gonna be like several weeks in a pretty hot climate, I think that is making me think about how to have some nice stops for that. So is that one, because that would be like two different t-shirts that I have picked out for that. So we'll see how it goes. Go from there. In terms of recording schedule, should be good for 2 weeks from now. Should be interesting to see how things settle in and go from there. Let it be. I guess the only question is if I will be swept up in the enthusiasm of my knit group for making those 2 patterns, but we'll see how it goes. It shouldn't be too crazy. Yeah, and then I guess I'll have to let you guys know how I figure out how to get my spinning set up working a little bit better now that I have a pretty decent chunk of time before house guests come again. All right. So, with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. So, take care, guys. Bye bye.